Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're tackling something that might seem kind of ordinary at first glance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cleaning the house. I know what you're thinking, but just wait. The way native English speakers talk about these everyday chores, it's a window into a whole lot more than just tidying up.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
We can uncover hidden cultural values and communication styles.
Yeah.
Maybe even some social psychology in there.
Oh, totally. Okay, so our jumping off point today is an intermediate English lesson, but
Okay.
you know us by now.
Yeah.
We're going to go way deeper.
Of course.
Peel back those layers and see what we find.
Good.
So this lesson starts by highlighting these two key words.
Okay.
Such a mess and chores. Now, what jumps out at you about those terms? What do you think when you hear those?
Interesting. What's interesting about such a mess is that it goes beyond just saying oh, this is messy.
Yeah.
It's got this emotion to it, like a feeling of being really overwhelmed or exasperated even. Think about it. We don't usually say such a mess
Yeah.
about, a little spill on the counter.
Right.
It's for when things are really chaotic.
Yeah, it's like a mini drama unfolding.
Exactly.
In our vocabulary.
Exactly. And chores, well, that's a word with a lot of baggage, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For so many people, it brings up memories of things they had to do as kids, obligations,
Yes.
maybe even, power struggles in a family. Who decides what the chores are?
Oh, yeah.
Who hates doing them? It says a lot about how responsibility is divided up.
That's so true. So we haven't even started talking about actual cleaning yet,
Right.
but we're already thinking about family dynamics
Mm-hmm.
and cultural expectations. This is great.
I know. It's fun.
Okay. So the lesson then gives us this dialogue to work with. It's between a couple getting ready for people to come over for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that classic pre-party scramble.
Yes. Trying to make everything look perfect. It's practically a performance.
Oh, it totally is. And the dialogue captures it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
The wife says the house needs to be spotless.
Mm-hmm.
Sigue con tu aprendizaje del inglés con Audible. Mejora tu pronunciación y vocabulario con miles de audiolibros narrados por hablantes nativos. Prueba Audible gratis por 30 días usando el enlace en la descripción.
Now, she could have just said clean, but spotless is doing something more here.
It really is. Spotless suggests this almost impossible level of perfection,
Yeah.
which shows us, how important presentation is in a lot of cultures.
Uh-huh.
It's not even just about being clean. It's about creating a certain image,
Yeah.
especially when you have guests coming.
So it's like this subtle status symbol almost.
Yeah.
Look how well we take care of our home.
Exactly. It goes beyond just making things functional.
Yeah.
It's social signaling.
Fascinating. And then we get the husband's response.
Okay.
He's like, I'm in the middle of something. I'll be there in a second.
Aha.
I'll be there in a second. It's practically a universal code, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's such a classic example of how we use language to smooth things over, to avoid conflict.
Right.
Because, let's be honest, in a second almost never means an actual second. But it lets him acknowledge what his wife is saying
Yeah.
without actually saying no
Yeah.
or committing to a time.
I love that. It's so true. So much negotiation happening in these tiny phrases. It's amazing. It's like they're dancing around a potential argument.
Exactly.
Using only words.
Yeah.
Later on, the husband says, why don't you clean the floors and I'll go to the supermarket?
Okay.
And I thought that was so clever, framing the chore like it's a team effort.
It is clever. It's such a good example of using language to avoid direct confrontation.
Yeah.
Right. Notice how he phrases it as a suggestion, a question almost.
Yeah.
Not a command. So it gives his wife some agency, makes it feel less like an order, more like a plan they made together.
It's almost sneaky,
Uh-huh.
but effective. Makes you wonder how much of our daily communication is about these subtle power dynamics, especially with bears.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It shows how important it is to understand not just the words themselves,
Right.
but the stuff that's not being said directly, the subtext.
Exactly. So the lesson also gives us a few more sentences to practice with,
Okay.
just to help learners use these phrases in different situations.
That's helpful. It shows how you can use these everyday expressions in lots of ways.
Yeah. Like you could say, your room is such a mess, you need to clean it to a kid.
Right.
Or if you want to go outside, you need to tidy up your room.
Uh-huh.
Like setting a condition.
I like that. And that phrase, tidy up, it's interesting too. It
Yeah.
feels less intense than clean, more gentle.
Yeah, it does.
Like you're suggesting they just straighten things up a bit,
Yeah.
not do a deep clean.
You're right. There's definitely a nuance there.
Tidy up implies more like putting things back in order,
Yeah.
not necessarily making everything perfectly clean.
So even within this one category of cleaning vocabulary, we've got all these subtle shades of meaning, which is so important when you're learning to communicate in English.
It really is.
It's like a secret language within the language.
I love that. It really is. And it makes me think about how ideas about cleaning can be different in different cultures.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how the lesson mentioned that even the word vacuum might have different regional variations?
That's right. They gave the example of Hoover, which I know is super common in Britain.
Right.
I wonder if that's a case of like a brand name becoming so common that it replaces the actual word.
It's so interesting. It shows you how powerful branding can be, like how some products become so normal
Yeah.
that they change our language.
Totally. But beyond just specific words, I'm curious about like overall cultural attitudes toward cleaning. What's considered clean in one culture might be totally unacceptable in another, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine going to a friend's house in a culture where it's rude to leave your dishes dirty overnight.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you don't know that custom, you could really offend them.
That's so true. It's a good reminder that even something as simple as cleaning can lead to all kinds of cultural misunderstandings.
Yeah.
I remember reading about how in some cultures it's bad luck to sweep at night.
Really?
Yeah, because it symbolizes sweeping away good fortune.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It shows how much cleaning practices are tied to cultural values and beliefs. It's not even just about hygiene anymore.
Right.
It's about keeping things in harmony, avoiding bad luck.
Exactly. It makes you realize how we take for granted about our own cleaning routines. What we think is normal actually comes from a whole bunch of cultural norms and beliefs.
That's a really good point. And speaking of changing norms,
Yeah.
the lesson also talked a little bit about how the roles of men and women in housework are changing. I think that's worth exploring more.
Oh, definitely. It's a big shift. It reflects how gender roles and societal expectations are changing in general. Like that traditional idea of women doing most of the housework.
Right.
It's being challenged now. We're seeing more couples share those responsibilities more equally, which is great.
It really is. It
Yeah.
makes you think about the division of labor in your own house.
Yeah.
Or in your friends and family's houses.
Yeah.
How do they decide who does what? Is it balanced? Or are they still following old patterns?
Those are great questions. And they go beyond just the practical stuff. They're about power and fairness.
Right.
How we define our roles and relationships. It's a whole other deep dive.
Totally. We can talk about how people use language to negotiate these new dynamics, how couples talk about their needs and expectations around chores.
Yeah. It's like there's this whole other layer of meaning hidden in those everyday cleaning conversations.
Exactly. It's not just about who cleans the toilet. It's about sharing responsibilities,
Right.
building a partnership at home.
Well, I think we've officially proved that talking about cleaning can be way more interesting than it seems at first.
I agree.
We've uncovered cultural differences, communication strategies. We even talked about changing gender roles. Amazing.
It's incredible what you can learn from something as ordinary as housework.
It really is. So for our listeners who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by their own such a mess situations, what's one key takeaway they can apply to their own lives?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that language is powerful, even when you're talking about cleaning. Like, pay attention to those little nuances we've been talking about. The difference between clean and spotless. How to make a request sound more like a suggestion.
Right. It's like learning a secret code to make things run smoother at home. So instead of saying, you never help me clean,
Yeah.
try something softer. Like, hey, things are getting a little out of control around here. Think you could lend a hand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might take some practice, but if you're careful about the words you use,
Yeah.
you can make things feel more like a team effort.
Yeah.
Less like you're going to fight about it.
And who wants to fight about chores? No one.
Right.
Speaking of strategy, I love that the lesson ended with a question for the learners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it asks how they would use these phrases in a real cleaning dilemma.
That's smart.
Yeah.
It gets people thinking about how these phrases fit into their own lives. Because language works best when you use it in real situations.
Right.
Totally. So to all our listeners out there, I challenge you to put these phrases into action. See how a little bit of clever wording can change your cleaning conversations. Maybe you need to get your roommates to help clean up before a party. Or maybe you're trying to gently hint that your partner could be a little tidier. Good luck. Whatever your cleaning situation is, just remember, language is on your side. If you understand the little things and the cultural context, you can say what you need to say and maybe even make chores a little less, well, chore-like.
Well said. I think we've officially made cleaning sound fun.
Right. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah.
But seriously, this deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has.
We've learned that cleaning the house is about so much more than just, the actual tasks. It's about our culture, our relationships, how we communicate.
It's like a window into what it means to be human, disguised as a pile of laundry. I love that. Thanks for joining us on this adventure into the surprisingly fascinating world of cleaning language. Until next time, happy cleaning and even happier communicating.